Welcome to the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, where rude mechanicals do magic. Hello, I'm Bronze Age, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, and today we're at the lamp bench where we have the Hollywood Nightlight. So for a brief description, we've got the light socket at the top, we've got 3 pendant lamps that hang from this body. The whole thing is made of pewter, white metal, pot metal, spelter. There's lots of names for that particular very low cost cheap alloy. And then it's brass plated over it. On the pendants we've got these little plastic medallions, but they're kind of iridescent, which makes them pretty. And this is a style usually called Hollywood Regency. Now back in the day, when the saying "it's good to be king" actually meant something, every once in a while you'd come to a situation where the king was either too young or too old to do king stuff, and as a result somebody would have to do all the king stuff for him, and that person was called a regent. And over the centuries, regents got the reputation for being irresponsible, living lavishly on the king's money, either the king to be or the soon to not be king anymore. If we go forward a few centuries, we end up in Hollywood, California in the 20s and the 30s, where the movie industry was booming, and they wanted to create sort of a decor that made it look like they were living really well as any regent ever did. And that was the birth of a decorating style called Hollywood Regency. Now, nobody ever called up their interior designer and said, "Do my house in Hollywood Regency," because it was sort of a pejorative, so like trailer trash kind of thing. And but everybody trying to outdo each other, a little more silver, a little more chrome, a little more gold, a little more brass, and it became a popular style all the way up into the 50s, and it gets revived every once in a while, and I see something like this come into the lab to be rewired back up to 21st century standards. Unless a lamp has parts that are going to be difficult to clean, there's really no reason to disassemble it beyond what it's going to take just to rewire it. In this case, got these little short sockets inside here, and that would be pretty awkward to handle with it hanging here in midair. So I'm going to take these arms off because those sockets will have to be changed. All of this wiring is original, which it's kind of strange for the lamp being as clean as it is, because usually something like this would be covered in a good layer of cigarette smoke. Now, as I was taking this shell off, I spotted something ominous through the pierce work. That is definitely a burn mark. And you'll notice we've only got one wire coming out of here. There's the other end of it. Now let's see if I can get this candle cover off without losing a finger. See what's going on here. Oh yeah. Now I know why this happened, and we'll be covering that a little bit later in the rewire. Now I give this same speech in every video about rewiring a lamp, and it's because it's really that important. It makes a difference between a good lamp rewiring and a mediocre or a dangerous one. But all lamp wire sold in the United States is multi-stranded, and all the terminals are screws. The National Electrical Code dictates that you cannot put a stranded wire underneath a screw terminal. The reason is the wires get splayed out. It's really impossible to get them tight. As they heat up through normal use, they expand. When it cools off, it's going to be loose. Loose connections have high resistance. They get hot, and they end up, like this one, basically burning through the wire. And best case scenario, light just quits working. Worst case scenario, something catches on fire. Now, the solution to that is to turn your multi-stranded wire into a single wire. And to do that, simply with a soldering gun, and put a little drop of solder on the tip of the wire. And I can't stress how important this is. Now, the second part of the speech is all lamp cord comes together like this. One side, the insulation is smooth, and one side has ridges. Sometimes you can't see them, but you can always feel them. Lamp sockets always have one brass colored screw, one silver colored screw. And the smooth wire always goes to the brass screw. You wrap it around it clockwise so that when you tighten the screw down, it will draw the wire underneath it instead of pushing it out. Do the same thing on the silver screw with the ridge wire. Now, this is a critical safety measure on the big socket up at the top, but it's good practice to do it on all sockets. Another important detail on a socket like this, which is mounted on a little short piece of pipe nipple, is that I always use a little bit of blue Loctite, which will keep those threads nice and tight. And also, I have a lock nut right here, and that will keep this nipple in position so that when I'm installing it, it's not going to start turning down and get down to where it could actually cut the wires. And with the blue Loctite, I can just get it firm with hand pressure, and I don't have to worry about this coming loose once it's in place. Now, before I install it, I put the cardboard insulator back on it, get it nice and seated. And I've got a new candle cover here, but obviously that's not going to stay in place. So I've got silicone. I can put a little dab on it right there and let that sit for a little bit before I go to install it, and that'll keep it in place forever, probably. Now, putting these pieces back together, pretty straightforward. More of the blue goop. And you always want to leave the end of the wire free so that it can slip while you're screwing this piece on. You really don't want to twist a wire inside any part while you're tightening it down. And if you turn around like that, the wire sits still, and the loop itself goes round and round until it's tight. Now, of course, even though I say don't twist the wires, every once in a while somebody will come up with a lamp design where it seems like that's the only way that you're going to get it back together. Well, as I'm putting this together, I hope to avoid this, or at least to this degree. I don't ordinarily use these little star washers. They're intended to keep things tight, but I don't think they actually work very well. I prefer a drop of the blue thread lock. But this curved body doesn't give this nut a good flat surface to pull up against. So I give it just a little more cushion. Ensures that I get it down nice and tight and nothing's going to rattle or come loose just in the ordinary handling of the lamp. Most lamps with 3 secondary lights, the lights are wired through a separate switch so they can be turned on sequentially or in groups. But this one, all 3 lights come on at the same time. So I have to wire this in. And it's fairly simple. Each smooth side will be connected to all the other smooth sides. And then to one more wire going up to the top, to the socket. And this is what it looks like when it's done. Now this is a step I probably should have done before I put the pendants back on it. But it works out about the same either way. I'm going to run the cord up the trunk. And I'm going to put a knot here because of the way this lamp is set up, being a nightlight and all, I'm not going to have a lot of room in the socket shell for a underwriter's knot. Now at this point, I understand why that cord was so twisted up inside this little short piece of pipe. And I'm going to try and avoid that. I put some wax on the inside of here to give me a little more chance of the wire just slipping instead of twisting. But because of the way this is made, really not going to be easy to do and avoid that completely. Get this tightened down and complete the stack. Now it's time to install the socket interior, and this one is a little bit unusual. We've got our familiar silver screw, our brass screw, and then we have a black screw. Now both of the ridged wires, one from the cord and the one from the night lights, both of those go around the silver screw. A little awkward, but they will fit. Clockwise again. Get a better screwdriver here. There we go. And the smooth wire goes to the brass screw, like it always does on all the other lamps. I want to get it nice and tight underneath there. And the smooth wire from the small lights goes underneath the black screw. And now I have to get all of this packed down in here. Now usually I would try an underwriter's knot at this point. And the purpose of that is to keep these leads from being pulled out from underneath the screws if somebody trips over the cord. You could easily pull the wires out from underneath them. They come down inside the steel pipe. You go to pick it up and you get a really nasty surprise. And so since I don't have room, needing room for the extra wire here to tuck down inside the base, it's very important that I put the knot down in the base, because otherwise we'd have no protection at all for that. I prefer this type of socket with the ring which screws on to the top, because I know that no matter how many times the bulbs are changed, this is not going to come apart. This is an especially good socket for pull chain lamps. because they're the ones that are most likely to separate. Well, this is Bronze Age for the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery Salvage, and I thank you for sticking with me through this video about the Hollywood Nightlight, and I really would appreciate a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Comments and questions are always welcome. I respond to all. And again, thank you for watching.